What would happen if you touched your face this morning and realized your mouth was no longer there? Your smile has slipped down to your neck, and your voice now comes from a shadowed place that doesn't belong to your face. Your breath rises toward your forehead, where a newly opened nose stares out like a blind eye, seeing everything except you. Your face no longer shows expression. It's just a silent surface that reveals nothing. And then you realize, if a face can be rewritten, what part of you is truly stable? This is not the future, not the past. This is if reversed. Morning in this world always begins with a strange kind of silence. It isn't that everything is quieter, but that the familiar sounds of humanity have shifted away from where they once belonged. When windows open, rooms no longer echo with breath rising from the face. Instead, a low, steady resonance moves from the neck, as if breathing has chosen a different place to exist. Across cities and distant rural towns, people wake in slow, measured motions, carrying a bodily structure that has long become the essence of their kind. A mouth on the neck, and a nose centered on the forehead. Pale blue light drifts across the windows, sweeping over millions of bodies as they stretch awake. When they raise their shoulders, the neck where smiles once lived moves in a subtle way no one notices anymore. But to someone from the old world, it would be one of the clearest signs that something is out of rhythm. A smile opening at the neck, a faint stroke of light sliding across the skin before vanishing. As they step out of bed, their hands touch their necks before their faces. A quiet habit, as if confirming that their voice is still where it belongs. The nose on their forehead trembles with each passing breeze. Faces no longer hold expression. They appear still, almost meditative, while emotion hides somewhere deeper. Outside, the flow of people moves with a rhythm entirely its own. From a distance, they always seem slightly uplifted, not out of pride, but because the nose on their forehead is the first sense to meet the world. They do not perceive life with their eyes first, but with scent. They smell the shift in the wind, the warmth of someone approaching, or a faint trace of something unfamiliar from several steps away. These movements give the entire landscape a different pulse. Slower, more observant, as if the whole species is living in a state of peaceful vigilance. In the markets, vendors call to customers through subtle movements of the neck, a slight tilt, a small vibration, forming sound from a lower point in the body. Speech rising from the neck feels heavy, deep, and close to the heart. When someone laughs, the sound does not bloom at the lips, but resonates from the neck, making emotion harder to read and, strangely, more intimate. Children run with the same structure, unbothered. When excited, their necks brighten and widen. When sad, they contract with gentle trembling. Parents do not search their children's faces for emotion. They observe the neck, where truth is revealed. Here, the face is no longer a screen of expression. It is simply the home of the eyes, and the eyes have become the last quiet doorway left unchanged. Culture has shifted with it. Paintings no longer depict lips, but the elegant curve of the neck. Jewelry descends toward the throat. Emotional tattoos appear only during life's great milestones, placed exactly where the mouth once existed. No one forces the face to tell their story anymore. People have learned to express themselves from deeper places, more hidden and more honest. During meals, they bow farther than those of the old world. Eating is no longer a part of social exchange. The mouth rests on the neck, close to the path of breath. They eat in silence, like a ritual honoring the body. No one looks at each other while eating, not out of shame, but because it is their most private space. The neck where they eat, speak, laugh, and breathe becomes a sacred terrain of self. In crowds, it is nearly impossible to tell whether someone is happy or sad by looking at their face. The face is now only a window to the world, not a voice for the soul. This makes humanity appear calmer, quieter, as if they carry a depth the old world never recognized. When the weather shifts, the nose on their forehead quivers a natural intuition. People sense rain before clouds darken. At the highest point of the face, The nose works like a third eye, not for seeing, but for sensing. It reads the sky, the wind, and the moods of others without touch or question. No one asks why the body became this way. In this world, the structure is foundational, shaping society, culture, and how people understand each other. Yet sometimes, at a thin edge of awareness, a line of cold runs down the spine, a fleeting sense that not everything is familiar, not everything is right. The feeling fades quickly, like an old memory brushing past the surface of consciousness. And in the final moment of this segment, among millions of lives shaped by this new design, one image always returns. A person standing before a mirror, lifting their hand to the neck to smile, only to hesitate, as if their body still remembers a place distant and fading where the smile once belonged. The rhythm of human life in this new form seems, at first glance, too familiar to question. But the longer one observes, the clearer it becomes. Even as their bodies adapt, something in their nature is still learning how to exist again. They look at one another longer, slower, more carefully. When their eyes meet another person, they do not search the face for a smile, a place where smiles no longer live, but for the tiny pulses at the neck, the subtle openings that reveal real emotion. And so, communication takes on a different shape. When someone wants to show warmth, their neck opens gently, like a petal unfolding. When anger rises, heat spreads from the forehead, carried outward like a surge of emotion that refuses to stay hidden. The face, once the center of expression, has become a quiet region, and quiet things do not lie. No one looks to the mouth for clues. No one watches the corners of the lips to guess sadness or reluctance. Truth now rests in the neck, the place that trembles easily, warms quickly, and widens the moment emotion touches it. Among this version of humanity, emotions become strangely honest. They are no longer masked by forced smiles or lips trying to imitate a feeling. Society shifts in another direction. With the face losing its expressive role, people begin to listen to the voice, the sound emerging from the point closest to the heart. Words feel heavier, deeper. No one speaks just to fill the silence. Each sentence, once released, spreads through the neck like a thin wave, and everyone senses it as clearly as they sense another rhythm of the soul. Silence becomes a ritual. Not the silence of closed lips, but the silence of a heart that has nothing more to say. Then comes the shift that philosophy touches with a soft knock. As the mouth leaves the face, people slowly lose the habit of judging one another by expression. There is no friendly face, no kind eyes. The face becomes neutral, a clean surface. They are forced to understand each other through different channels: the voice, the throat, the breath, the tiny vibrations that reveal genuine feeling. And within these changes, humanity begins to quietly wonder, was the thing we once called the true face ever really the center of who we are? Or was it only an evolutionary coincidence, a mirror hung in the wrong place? And the self, where does it reside when the place we used to look for it now holds only silence? No one voices these questions. They drift through sleep, through breath, through the slow rhythm of each day, as if something deeper than the body has shifted. Occasionally, a flicker of spiritual awareness rises, like an ancient intuition returning. The nose on the forehead allows them to sense the wind in a different way. Standing on balconies, the breeze passes across their foreheads and carries invisible messages. The smell of approaching rain, the scent of a sad day, the trace of an upcoming meeting, the fragrance of a memory with no name. This elevated sense of smell reveals the world before the eyes can register it, as if a door of intuition has reopened. In crowded plazas, people often stand still for a few seconds when the wind touches their foreheads. It is no longer a mindless gesture, but a ritual. They let the wind read them, and they read the wind. The wind speaks before emotion can understand itself. In that moment, philosophy and spirituality merge naturally. The sense that the world is not only seen by the eyes, but also known through a perception that once belonged to thought. Something unusual happens to the elderly. When they close their eyes, their hands rest gently on their foreheads, where the nose now lies, and there they feel their lives more clearly than anywhere else, as if their memories do not live in the mind, but in the sense, carried through thousands of seasons of wind. A kind of memory of the soul. Over time, shared culture begins to call the neck the place where words are born, and the forehead the place where intuition opens. No written record is needed. Everyone knows, instinctively, as if an old truth has been rediscovered, and through countless ordinary moments, the world continues moving in its new shape. But sometimes, if one looks slowly enough, an image appears that seems to stop time. A child stands by a window, touching their neck to practice a smile, then raising their hand to the forehead to search for the scent of the wind, as if trying to locate where their real emotion lives within the form they now carry. It is the moment where paradox touches the soul. As humanity grows familiar with smiles at the neck and breath resting between the brows, a quiet question awakens in the collective mind. To what extent have we relied on the placement of our senses to define who we are? If a simple shift in the body is enough to unsettle us, then how stable has our so-called human identity ever truly been? Perhaps we trusted the face only because it was familiar, not because it was real. In this world, the relocation of the senses is not just a biological event. It is a reminder that the body has never been a fixed structure. When the mouth leaves the face and speech rises from lower down, closer to the heart, words become honest in a way that requires no effort. There is no longer a pair of lips to judge, only the tone of emotion rising from the neck like a soft touch from within. And when the nose rests at the center of the forehead, people begin to sense the world with intuition before they see it with their eyes. They realize that perception does not always originate from reason. Sometimes, it comes from places awareness has not yet opened. These shifts quietly revive an old question. If the face is no longer the center of emotion, then where does the self live? In the old world, the face was a mask, a stage for performance, a shell hiding everything that never wished to be revealed. But now the face grows still, the smile drops to the neck, and breath rises to the forehead. Everything once hidden is forced into authenticity. There are no polite smiles, no pursed lips to restrain feeling, no expressions trained to create likability. Emotion becomes something that cannot be fabricated. And in a deeper layer, a faint realization appears. Perhaps human awareness has never been fixed in one place. It does not belong to the head. It does not belong to the face. It does not belong to the heart. It is a flowing current, always seeking the most fitting place to express itself. The movement of the mouth and nose only clarifies this. The self does not depend on appearance. Appearance is merely a temporary vessel for the self. From the perspective of today's world, this paradox casts a gentle but cold light. People of the old society lived among unspoken standards of the perfect face, of features unintentionally treated as measures of worth. The face became a passport for the ego, as if adjusting a few details could rewrite a life. But if one day the mouth no longer belongs to the face, and the face is no longer the center of emotion, do we still know who we are? Are we truly afraid of our shape changing, or of losing the mirror that once reflected our idea of ourselves? And the most important question rises, like a whisper moving through the body. If shifting just one sense is enough to shatter our entire structure of self-perception, then what within us has ever been stable? Perhaps the true self has never lived in the place where we look in the mirror, but in the place we have never dared to see. As the world where smiles rest on the neck and breath lives on the forehead begins to fade into the background, something lingers in human awareness, a faint tone, like an echo rising from the deepest part of who we are. It is not the voice of the neck, nor the breath of the brow, but a subtle feeling that what we have witnessed does not belong only to another reality. It is like an abstract mirror, reflecting the things we have always avoided facing in our own lives. Because when form changes, what remains is not flesh, but truth. In our present lives, we carry more faces than we want to admit. A face for smiling, A face for hiding sadness. A face for convincing others that we are fine. There are days when we look into the mirror not to find ourselves, but to see whether that face can still conceal what we dare not say. We adjust our hair, brighten our eyes, shape our lips into a pleasant curve, as if altering a few details could preserve an entire life. But in the quietest moments, we know. Some emotions do not live on the face. Some pains do not rise to the skin. Some fears move beneath the surface, slow, cold, like unseen footsteps of something we try to avoid. We often believe we are the face we wear, the gaze others return to us, the reflections the world places upon us. Yet how many times in our lives have we felt misaligned with the shape we are carrying? How many times have we stepped out of the role that our face forces us to play? And have we ever asked ourselves, if the smile no longer lives at the lips, would we still recognize when we are happy? In the world where the mouth slides to the neck and the nose moves to the forehead, people are forced to find their true emotions elsewhere, in breath, in the trembling rhythm of the neck, in signs that no longer perform for the eye. But even in our own world, this remains quietly true. Some emotions can only be heard by the heart. Some truths appear only when we stop long enough to see them. And there are parts of human nature that have never belonged to the face. Perhaps awareness does not arise from understanding the paradox, but from recognizing something simpler. When every form changes, something within us remains still silent, steady, too honest to hide. It never needed a specific place to exist. It has only been waiting for us to look at it. When all images have settled, when the paradox of a distant world fades into the back of consciousness, something still remains thin, light, a reminder that the human self has never rested in a fixed place. There are things we call me simply because they appear in the familiar spots on the face. There are emotions we believe are real only because they show up where others can easily see them. But if a smile can fall to the neck, if breath can rise to the forehead, then perhaps what makes us who we are has never belonged to flesh at all. It is the small light no one sees, the breath we often forget, the quiet space inside that no expression can fully reach. And if one day the world forces us into a different shape, that part still remains intact, an unmoving truth. If something in this journey made you pause for a single breath, know that it was not by accident. Every paradox we cross is not meant to frighten you, but to open a tiny door within a place where forgotten things have room to return. And if that thin thread still trembles softly inside you, you may stay here where other faint layers of the world are waiting to be revealed. No rush, no pressure, only slow steps and the moments when something inside you asks to be heard. This journey has no destination, only recognition, and a return to what has been awakening within you. Until next time, this is If Reversed.